Okay.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to another design review related to our friend Tabular, intended for the next version of Wolfram language. Okay. Today it looks like we are starting off with window. Oh my gosh. That is bad. Let me see.
By the way, you're not sharing anything.
I see.
Well,
I see his notebook. The tabular agenda with the windowed section
not
open.
being shared with for some reason. Okay, let us know if you don't solve it. Okay. Windowed.
Okay, so little bit of introduction. So the original topic was missing handling, and this is a kind of upstream thing. Let me introduce why. So in the last week, you've been discussing the missing fallback, which is the low-level, element-wise way of dealing with missing elements that introduced a basic level of missing handling at the transform column level, where you can directly, provide things. Now, we have a documentation for a function called missing transform. Transform missing. That basically handles missing at the column level. Now, in order to do that, we need access with a certain level of granularity to a tabular column. And this is the middle ground between the functions that we've designed so far. So, I mean, this highlighted a hole in the design between transform columns and reduced tabular. Reduced tabular looks at the whole column altogether. Yeah, and sometimes you can group it, but it does an operation that compresses that. While transform columns looks at the single row. Now, in order to impute missings on a line, on a row, you need to work row by row, but you need access to the full column to do operations.
Okay. So for example, let's say that you want to replace missing values by the mean of everything in the column, for instance.
Exactly. So you could do that with what you've designed so far. You could do that by insert column. Yeah, but this is going to be very manual. But whatever we implement, the missing transformation function that we implement is going to leverage this windowed functionality. Yeah, and given that it's going to leverage that, we might as well spend some time thinking about the functionality itself, because this is something like element-wise. It's something like that we might need for some specific implementation, but is useful in
are you on prototype?
Itself.
I don't think I'm using prototype. I need to use.
Okay.
Hold on.
Sorry, we should have mentioned that.
Yeah, right. But the fact that Carlo's asking that question means you can probably see the screen now.
Yeah. Well, I first tried following on the live stream, and then I said, well, that's going to have a delay. I'm going to quit and reopen Zoom.
Okay.
You can, there is an initialization cell, if you evaluate that, then the examples will work. But that's still not, transform columns can't be blue on prototype.
No, exactly.
Why is it running like?
Are you doing something weird like you did the other time with the remote kernel?
You know what? I bet I am. I bet this is set to use. Yeah, because I'm doing a bunch of GPU stuff. Okay, that looks better.
Re-enable dynamic updating though, otherwise you don't see the.
Okay.
Maybe.
So yeah, those fails shouldn't be there. So let's try to evaluate. This should work. Without the fail, hopefully. Oh, ugly.
Can you try and reopen the notebook now that you have the correct kernel set?
Yeah. I mean, I know this is actively worked on. So in the version Carlo had today, it was working. It might be that if this is today's version, it's not what we tested.
No,
this on,
there
so.
isn't.
Yeah, I think okay. I mean, those should be the icons, but it's not super relevant to our discussion today.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Now we can start looking at this function here. Yeah. So we have like two implementations that Carlo put in here in this code. One is a mapping function, and one is this head wrapper, which is tailored to be used in transport columns to do this type of operation. And this is basically expanding the scope of the function that you have in transport columns.
I don't understand what this is doing at all.
Read the first definition. Read the first definition.
There's a definition that I think it explains it.
It's a lot like supplied.
Well, it's a hell of a bad name.
Yeah, name is temporary, of course.
Why isn't it supplied?
Well, do we have a spec for supplied? I'll be happy to follow that.
And also, can supplied be non-local? Because the interesting thing about this is that it's
supplied is by definition non-local. It's picking in things from the environment. Like
but can it do grouping and sorting in place? The reason why I called it windowed is because this is not a concept that I came up with, and it's called window functions.
Yeah, I understand that.
So.
But it's it's like we could imagine something like this when you're using map. And you're looking at, you map, you think you've got a single element, but actually you've got elements in the wings, so to speak, as well. But it's a very different
with map is a lot more general because you have this ND structure and you don't know where you are. I mean, you do know where you are.
I'm not sure. Okay, so I'm still not entirely clear on what this windowed thing is, but I don't think this is supplied, right? Because supplied, you get specific parameters based on the head, right? Like in map, you might get, like the index or the part or whatever. And this is taking some sort of arbitrary things, or what exactly is windowed again?
This is a function that is mostly applied to.
Well, if you see that in the definition, windowed of func, it simply allows to take beyond the current row also the column.
I know, but why isn't that exactly what supplied is doing?
Because that you have the two arguments that you can do window of function comma group spec and window of function comma group spec comma sort spec, which provides you with the subpart of Tabular.
Hold on.
Look at an example further down. That's something you can't do with supplied, because supplied doesn't know how to do group by.
Well, why are we saying that? Supplied doesn't even exist yet. What it can't do is not known to it yet.
Okay, but I read the documentation page that exists.
Okay, well, let's look at that then. Oh, for God's sake, why is DocuTools not installed? That's just really weird.
Mm-hmm. I reported that to Roger.
But look, it's completely broken. So if somebody can send me the supplied documentation.
Well, DocuTools is right there on the right. Well, now you clicked away from Mathematica, but if you, there it is.
Even though its palette is not visible. My God.
What do you mean its palette?
Everything is. I mean, sorry, it's not its palette.
The menu item is
menu.
there. Yeah, but it's there.
That's even more bizarre.
Okay, it's not fully installed, which is why the formatting is completely screwed up.
When are we going to get supplied implemented?
Unknown.
We really should be talking about how to get to this. I mean, okay, so this thing.
Steven, if you look at, for example, the example of relative rank, that's something that you cannot do with that design.
Why?
But
Why?
look
You
at
can pick up anything with the elements.
what?
Well, I mean, okay.
I mean, I still don't see why this makes sense for supplied, right? Supplied is taking things, right? It takes, certain things that make sense for that head. This is some sort of, right? It's going in different rows. I don't even understand how that works.
No, but this is something also relevant for a particular head.
Okay,
but anyway,
still,
let's not worry about that for a second.
Let's look at an example with more than one argument, such as
why is #1 never being used?
Well, these are cases where #1 is not being used, but there are cases where #1 is used. Like
so
what
are #2 and #3?
So
like how much?
But the examples with 2 and 3 arguments are things that don't fit in the current design for supplied. And these are all examples with 1. You have to scroll down further to get to examples 2 or 3, like relative rank, for example. So this tells you, like, it orders by age within groups of sex and class and tells you which rank you are.
Okay.
In that group, within that group.
Okay. I mean, how would you do that without this? You would extract the column.
You'd have to do it with
group, build a new column.
You'd have to do it with group by or tabular reduce and then try to map it back. No, you could. I mean, it's complicated to do with group by.
Yeah, I mean, you can do with tabular reduce. You create the groups. You compute you compute the rank within the group, and then you have to use some form of matching to put it back in the original tabular. Okay. Well, this is matched by default because it acts on that line.
All right, let's take a look at what this is really doing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my God. Grouping the tabular by group spec. What are you doing here? You're changing the meaning of these #1, #2, #3.
Like in tabular reduce. Oh, sorry, like in reduced tabular is exactly the same meaning. So the hash in reduced tabular is the full column if you don't group, but
by the way,
the
can somebody report the bug, please? This, whatever this is. N resource file. Carla, do you have it? Carla, do you have it?
Sorry, I was trying to report this with Roger, the situation you are having. Could you repeat?
Look at this.
This program? Oh, the picture. Okay.
Look at that. That came up. Please report it.
Yes. I'm taking the image right now, and I will do it. Yeah, I was checking with Roger the other thing.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, we don't have Docker.
You need Docker tools, yeah.
Oh, it's going to look terrible, isn't it?
It's going to look ugly, yeah.
I'm worried that these are really incomprehensible hackeries.
Although, Stian, I think that maybe this is hard to understand, but the point is that this is really very expressive. So maybe we don't document it right now, but we use it internally. If you look at like all of the examples.
Okay, let me give you an example of something I was sold. Okay. I was sold join across on the grounds that it was really important and everybody would understand it. Turns out basically nobody understands it. And this feels like the same kind of thing.
Yeah, but my point is that if you don't want to document this, fine, we'll have an internal representation. If you look at the examples of transform missing that we took from the existing documentation of transform missing, they can all be expressed with this. And so it's going to be our internal language to do all this kind of
Let's take a look at it. Let's see if
explanation.
I can fix the stupid mistakes that are happening here. Okay. Oh,
So
it isn't even saving. What the heck? Why is this huge for some reason?
It's 15 megabytes.
Why is this showing? Okay. Let's look at reduce. What were we looking at before reduce tabular? And what was the other thing we were looking at?
supplied.
Slide.
We really need to implement supplied. Okay, that's a separate discussion. Okay. Have people been using tabular reduce?
I have a lot.
I used it the other day.
Okay. Those are good endorsements. Okay, let's try to understand this. So what really is
Oh.
this?
You also have the icons now.
Yes, yes, yes. What really is this? Okay, is what I'm asking. Windowed is incomprehensible. So let's try and understand how would we actually describe it? It is, to what extent is it like column-wise?
Well,
So the point is
Column
that
the second argument is a column-wise operation. Yeah. The
So
second
the first
second
argument-
hash.
Should we end up with a function column-wise? Yes.
but I don't know if we're gonna
What is
defend.
it?
I mean, so far I think it's
it's
an
the
implementation detail. I don't know if it's exposed.
No, I mean, what it did right now is that is changing the meaning of hash.
Why is element-wise not documented?
Because it's a new
Because it's-
function.
It's
We
only in
just designed
prototype.
it.
It's what?
It's only in prototype. It's not a system
No, I know,
function.
but it isn't in DocuTools yet.
But the
No,
point
you
is that
you look in
function.
the system documentation, I think.
No, he searched in get function page and it
Ah,
just
okay,
it didn't
okay.
find it, so
Oh,
forwarded to
Yeah.
system docs.
correct. then.
The point of windowed is that the first argument is element wise, the second argument is column wise, the third argument is indexed.
Yeah, I guess the third argument that the function gets is like applied. The first one is like transform columns. The second one is like reduce tabular, and the third one is like applied. And you have access to all of those. I guess you could
Okay, brilliant.
use all three
in
together.
some random order, unnamed. So let's just understand what the first argument. So just like if I say, where's data? Did data come in?
You need to evaluate code.
It's
And then
it's
you have
already
data.
evaluated. It's in
Okay.
the.
Ah,
I mean,
then you have it.
it can
Okay.
evaluate data. It's,
Okay, let me just understand what transform columns is actually doing here. On data, and let's say diff age is 100 minus hash age.
Okay.
Yeah, that will break. Yeah, Brent.
No, that works. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I saw them.
Okay. All right. So now that's what that does. So now, oh, this is a hackalola. What happens if I put hash age inside here? Oh, it doesn't work because
No,
those
it
are
does
different.
work. It does work. It does
It does
work.
work.
Just
It does
do
work.
hash age minus that total.
Actually, if you wrap windowed around that, it's just going to be the same function.
Yeah.
You can wrap window around it, and it works the same.
Okay, so if I say hash 2 here,
Yeah, that's going to be the whole transpose tabular. So
That's
you have
probably
to do
gonna
something
flap.
about it.
That's you can do like total of hash to age, for example. That's going to be like the distance from the, or mean of age, the distance from the mean.
Somebody should report the formatting bug here.
Mhm. Yeah.
And another self-test error.
Uh-huh.
Fraction box.
What I'm checking.
Fraction box, line
Mhm.
961.
Okay, got it.
Okay, all right. So,
but then maybe you want to just do that instead of with the whole column by first grouping for class
no.
and
Let's get to this first. Okay, this is already a mess. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. This is really, that #2 is referring to data, isn't it?
It's the
The
transpose.
transpose of
Yeah.
data.
It's literally the same meaning as reduced tabular, the same meaning that hash has in reduced tabular.
So if I say data of age, that isn't going to work because that,
Right.
and by the way, that has got to produce a better message than that.
Yeah.
If I did that, it would presumably work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with a non-reduced version, is you could use a whole column to do the same operation.
Right. But the reduction is saying within my current group.
Exactly. What's the mean? What's the first
right.
class mean, for example?
I feel like one should first group the things and then do this. What happens? I mean, there's no way to represent in a tabular right now a grouped tabula, so to speak.
No, there isn't. But
so really what
cool
has
thing
to happen
about
is
this,
grouping has to be done dynamically and then used.
the cool thing about
Yeah.
this is that you could, I mean, it doesn't work right now, so don't try it. But if you have a transform column with a list of things, then you have two different windows. Those are independent. And so the group, the cool thing about that is that the order is maintained and the grouping doesn't ever really need to materialize. So you could have something like the diff age grouped by class and the diff age grouped by sex together. And they stay aligned. If you have to do the grouping first, then they resort in some sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is really grouping in place in some sense.
Okay, so here you're saying a second argument here. Let's see. If I group by hash.
One level inside windowed. And it's just the name of the column. It's not hash because it's not getting the value.
I think that would work too.
Oh, yeah, okay. No.
No.
Yeah, just put
list.
string sec. Yeah, we can do the function thing, but if you put string sec, it's gonna work. It's lowercase, I think. Lowercase s.
Lowercase and possibly in a list. No, it should work without a list too.
Or it could do that.
Yeah. I mean, this is not really a real implementation. It's just some code that is just showing what this is doing.
It's actually a really bad hack.
Okay. All right. Okay. So shouldn't we have some visual indication of grouping?
Well, but the grouping is not contiguous in the, or you mean that like the color or something like that?
It's gone by then. It's gone.
No, but let's say I did want to show it. How do I do it? Is there some way to do that at the formatting level?
I would imagine a typesetting option in the tabular
Okay,
itself.
let's think about what that. Okay.
I mean, we show grouped columns, right?
Well, what you could do is like if you put in style, if you put style around the function, and then you could put a color based on the hash of hash2, like the hash.
Oh yeah, is style supported in Tabular right now?
I have no idea.
Yeah, me too.
Well, what are you saying? You're saying if I say, how do I map onto this column? Tabular transform columns.
Yeah. Transform columns.
Let's see if I can figure out how to do it. Age, arrow, style, hash age, comma, pink. I wish there was a way of auto parenthesizing this. Ta-da!
Okay.
Yes.
Now I was wondering if do we have like something like a function that takes an expression and gives each expression?
Yes, in the function repository, we've all been rewriting that.
That's what?
Like color hash.
Yes, is an expression color expression color. Let's say that takes the hash of the expression and generates the color based on that.
A random color based on that, but deterministically, so that you could
Yeah.
put in the second argument of style something that depends on class and color them accordingly.
Yes, that's a useful thing.
Yeah, I think we've all rewritten that. It's in the function repository. I can give you the name if you want to try it.
Hash color or something, should it be called? We should bring that up in ILD. Okay. So let's go back to this. So what we're saying is, I mean, I just hate the obscurity of all this.
No, I understand. I mean, this is a concept, and I guess we need some design work to kind of untangle it into something that is more easily accessible.
Right.
And
So,
you know, I think that there's also like it's very useful to have named windows, things like, you know, previous, next, and, you know, window, constant with window, stuff like that. Well, you know, as a convenience.
oh God. I mean, but that's incredibly complicated because that's a completely different concept. I hate the name windowed. I think it's the wrong name for this. And you're extending based on the name, basically. I just don't believe in it. I mean, I think, look, if it's sequential here, and you're essentially doing a moving average or something of these numbers, I just don't think this is the right way to do it.
Yeah, but if you the really cool stuff you do when you start also using a sorting within the groups that doesn't actually reorder things.
Huh?
Yeah.
Like, similar way as doing in-place grouping, you can do in-place sorting, and then the rank that you get, the hash 3, it depends on that sorting. Yeah. So you can group by class and then sort by age, and then get the start counting. You know how many people survived going up in age.
Let me point out something. Okay, we are diving into implicitly represented this, that, and the other things. We never succeed with those. So let's ask the question: if we wanted to make this explicit, what would we do? In other words, let's imagine that we want to, for example, let's imagine we want to get a new tabular that's based on this whole weird thing, which we then stuff back into the old tabular or something. But rather than encrustedly, I mean, this is exactly what it makes it hard to do things with data set and so on. It gets deeply implicit and encrusted.
Yeah, but the problem with doing it explicitly is that suppose you do something like you do group by and then you do flatten in order to achieve this. Then how do you keep track of what row came from?
I don't know, but let's ask what it would take to do it explicitly.
Shuffles it.
let's ask what it would take to do it explicitly. Okay, because I just don't think this is going to work well. I think this is going to get very, very, very obscure. So what would it take to do it explicitly?
So you'd group by, then sort within the groups. Then you would have somehow to always return.
No. I'm talking about, for example, this case first. Okay, that case first. So in this case, we just need transformed columns.
In that case, you need to do an outside call to tabular reduce, compute the mean of
wait a second.
and then you stuff it back in.
Wait a second. Here's a way that we do this. Let's see. This is tabular reduce, right? That thing there is tabular reduce. It just says tabular reduce. Why is that not working? Is it? Oh, it's reduced tabular. Is it reduced tabular? Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's tabular. I think it's, I don't know.
No,
I think it changed like 5 times. I think now it's supposed to be tabular
but you
reduced, but in the docs or in the build.
Okay.
You need
So
what
do we do here? What do we do here? We say
that
reduces this, and then we say, do we give the column name?
Yeah. You have to give column name. You have to put hash age there.
Hash age where?
No.
Oh, first string
No.
age before that or whatever X. Doesn't matter.
This
goes to
an arrow
goes to the function.
Don't forget parentheses, because the precedence for rule.
I know. I would like to address in that. I mean, we need a way. You know what? When somebody has typed arrow, blah 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 ampersand, why isn't this showing? You know, we should just have a thing that brings up, you know what we should be doing? This is stupid. We should bring up an autocomplete in this case. See what I'm saying? If you type this, it should give you an immediate auto-suggest with the parenthesized version. See what I'm saying?
Unless you want the...
Don't use the autocomplete.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, another sort of solution to this that I think we talked about a while ago, but I don't know what happened with it. We talked about having a, like, I don't know what the term for this is, like special brackets that would be the same thing as function. I think we talked about like square bracket vertical bar or something like that.
Yes. Yes, that's another
Which
possibility.
I still think would be nice.
The autocomplete, I agree, but we should discuss both those things. But the autocomplete, why isn't this doing the thing it's supposed to do where the ampersand, what the hell is it doing here? Where the ampersand is supposed to indicate, what is it doing? That's a bug.
What do you think it's supposed to do?
It's supposed to highlight the range of the ampersand. That's a bug. It was doing that before. It's a bug. Carla, can you report that, please?
Yeah.
Also, would you please put into the next user assistance meeting the idea of an autocomplete?
Okay.
In this case?
Sure.
I'm going to make a comment here just to make sure that's not missed.
I think it shows it when you actually apply it to something, not in the case where it's just sitting there.
Well, it should. You know, this idea of the autocomplete is a good idea. We should have had that before.
So what's the idea exactly?
So we just offer an autocomplete in this case.
What is this case? You're
When you
typing
type
in what happens.
You type this and you get an autocomplete that says X arrow this. Simple as that. See what I'm saying?
And this appears when you type in the ampersand?
Yep.
Maybe.
Yeah. I'm just typing what this is. Okay. All right. Let's come back to this. Okay, tabular reduce tabular, whatever it's going to be called tabular reduce. But anyway, let's go with this. Can somebody make sure that it's getting renamed properly?
But why are we going back and forth with, like, before they were all called column transform?
You know what? We
First
talked about this at length. So go look at the notes from the previous time. If we're not renaming it, which is my recollection, if the renaming thing is wrong, then bring it back again. Okay, but that's what I remember. So if I remember correctly,
I remember at some point you said they should all be verb noun.
Okay, but we had a reason for changing this one. Go back and look at the notes, please.
I don't think that's correct, but
okay, all right, okay. So you think?
Yeah, I think this one is supposed to be. When I emailed Rob about this the other day, he said he called it tabular reduce, and I think Jose or something called it tabular reduce the other day as well.
I think it's what it's supposed to be.
Okay.
Okay, I don't understand what this did.
Well, this returns tabular.
Okay, but now what this wants to do is to put age in every element.
It might help if you call that not age.
Right,
yeah.
Right, you only have a single right. You only have a single value there, right? So you have one group, which is what you're seeing there.
Okay, but I don't understand why this, then, with its weird thing here, right? That thing is basically, this thing is basically, in this case, the whole tabula, right?
Transposed, yes.
So yeah, hash age in tabular reduce is
right, and that mean of that, right? You've taken the transpose, so now you're taking the mean of the whole column. So you're taking 29.9 minus the current row.
That will return.
Yeah,
that's a simple row.
Why isn't it showing the whole? Why isn't that? That should
make it wider.
Yeah, I know, but the resize isn't
working.
I think you need to resize the column head. The thing is not really attached to the.
Okay, that should work to resize this here.
But to resize which one? I think it's not attached to any.
No, I'm saying
one.
to
resize. You need to grab the corner.
Yeah,
I don't think you can make it any taller, can you? Can you grab the bottom of it? Oh my god.
Okay, so it's just not allowing one to grab this part, which it should allow, right? Not just the header. It should allow one to grab the vertical line anywhere.
Yeah.
Is this an edge case because you're at the bottom right, or like can you try the middle and like one of the tabulars above?
Doesn't work.
Okay.
I think it's just an oversight.
Oh yeah. I know. It's not 100. It's not. That is not 100% obvious. And
I'm pretty sure it's an oversight. We don't have anybody relevant here, so let's just not. We don't. Okay, let's go back to this. Okay. So I don't understand. Look, this is just incomprehensible. I mean, I don't understand why hash age works and hash 2 works. How can that possibly be? What is this function being applied?
No. This is standard. This is standard Wolfram language syntax. Hash 1 can be abbreviated with that is hash 1 age, hash 2 age.
Right. Yeah. If you replace the pound age with pound 1 of age, you'll get the same thing.
Okay, but so just tell me, what is this being applied to, this function?
Well, the triple of the
current row.
Let's see if you paid attention. Let's see if I paid attention.
The data set, the transpose data set, and then the third one is a little unclear to me, but something about nearby. No, it's the index of the row.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
So-
tab is the first one.
And I have not seen this function before,
You're fine.
48 minutes ago. So I'm just
Okay,
pointing
yeah,
out
It's
that it
fine,
is
but the first one
comprehensible.
is wrong.
Okay.
The first one is the current row, not the whole tabular. The current
Okay,
row.
so what's that called? What
Row?
is that?
Call it row.
row. I mean, it's the same thing that transform columns get by default. In your example, input 21, you have diff age 100 minus hash age. Is that the same hash?
Right. And, just to belabor the point, right, we could have written that pound age as pound 1 of string age and would have gotten the same thing, I hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the index of the row
Yes.
as opposed to the column, which also has an index.
Yeah, but you typically don't care because you talk about the column by name instead of by number.
Okay.
Now, how does the index by itself help? Maybe we looked at some example and it just ran past me, but how does the index on its own help you? Because don't you need the whole tabular if you're going to make use of the index?
No, not necessarily. You can use it as the rank. For example, if it's sorted and grouped, the index is the rank.
I see.
Yeah.
So this isn't to give you access to nearby values, it's to tell you positioning relative to nearby values.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's not windowing like I'm
not
making a
windowing.
smooth. Well,
So we
let me
should
finish.
just-
Let me
yeah.
finish my sentence, please, Stephen.
Okay. All right.
So this is not windowing in the sense of, I'm making a nice a nice spline through my points, right? This is some other, maybe this is called windowing, but it's not what I as a mathematician would call windowing.
No, Stephen, we just not implemented the case. Only one is a hack on a down value for transform columns. You need to do it one column at a time. It doesn't support multiple columns. It's just a snippet.
Okay. There are 7 other things we could imagine using here. So there'll be up to hash 8 or something.
Such as?
I don't know. There are going to be other things.
Oh, I see your point here. The issue with namings is that that is sort of taken by the fact that the hash 1 is all the
I
columns
know.
of tabular. So we need a smarter way to name things.
Let's see. So, well, that's what supplied is doing. It's
Supplied
giving
is
ambient
creating an
names.
association, yeah?
Yeah. Of ambiently named things.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it is big or small as a nice thing, but the nice thing so far is that the original hash 1 of transform columns is the same. So you don't need to change that meaning. If
Right.
we change name globally, that would be, hash data, for example.
row
Hash
of
row,
age.
exactly. Hash row, and then you need to put age in there, which I know. Maybe is slightly more complex to do that simple thing, but it pays into simplicity when you look at every argument together.
See what we want there. What's really confusing here is that's a column and that's an element of a row. See what I'm saying?
Right.
They're
The
both
right. The hash is a row. The hash age is an element of a row.
right.
Yes, and the pound 2 of age is, well, it's a row. I mean, it's a column in the original and a row in the transpose. So I agree that's slightly confusing.
I mean, in a sense, I'm not necessarily advocating this, but it really is incredibly like supplied. It
But
needs
the supply doesn't really have the spooky action at distance.
Yes, it does. It's able to get ambient things, and that's exactly what this is doing. It's getting ambient things. Okay, it's getting the ambient whole column, for example.
Not really. Like the thing about this is that it does get other things if you use it in things like block map, tree map, and so on. Whereas this one contains its own blockiness. In that respect, it's different. It's like it can change the behavior of the outside map, really.
I mean, it seems like the only case that's really very different from supplied is where you have groups, like non-trivial groups.
Which we haven't really understood yet.
Right. Well, I think then maybe we should talk about that, because supplied right now, when you're asking it what to supply, you always basically just give like a string or something.
Yeah, it's
that
local
says
information.
well, it's both local information, but usually what you ask for
Well,
is
it's
like
not.
you
It's
have a
not
kind of
actually local.
categorical.
It's supplied is sort of global information at the point, right? The index is not local information.
Right, but it didn't reconstitute. What this is doing is, it is, I mean,
I think the more important difference is just that supplied right now, you can't ask it like none of these supplied elements are functions. They're always just strings that you're asking for.
Which may not be right.
Maybe, but it seems like in the grouped windowed case, then we're going to have complicated grouping functions and stuff.
Okay, let's understand these arguments, because I mean, basically what we're saying is you're trying to reach out to some kind of more global piece. Okay? Either, what are some things you want to reach out to? The current group of rows. No, the current, what is it? It's the current collection of values in a particular column in a group defined by another column. Is that correct? So we group by sex, and we then are looking at a collection of values of age within the group.
Yeah.
We're segregating age into two groups, and we're looking at the collection of values in the current group.
Yeah.
As opposed to in the general hash 2 case, we're looking at it in the whole column.
Yep.
Right, which you can think of as if you're just grouping by some constant or something, but yeah.
Yeah, empty list.
Yes. Okay, now the third argument proposed is what? Oh, the row index. But what about the third argument to window, the sort
spec.
Yeah.
What the heck is that?
Like you group by sex and class, and then you sort by age.
So what? Sort what by age?
So, for example, one example that Julio wrote further down, like sort within the subgroup. There's one with the cumulative survival fraction. Like this one sorts by age, groups by sex and class, and then tells you how many people have survived so far within that group.
Okay, but you know,
So well, can we like copy out that windowed and see the three arguments on their own? Because I can't even tell what the three arguments are.
Second argument is sex and class, which is the definition of the group. Third argument is age.
Okay.
Wait, is it supposed to be sorting by age?
Yeah.
Or
So it's
Yeah,
like
within
Okay,
each
so
when
now
does
the
it do the
example
sort?
output it
When does it
didn't.
do the sort?
what?
When does
sorry,
it
Steven?
do the sort?
I mean,
Same
it
as the
goes-
grouping, just before providing it to the function.
I see. So this is changing the value of #3.
It's-
Yeah, I mean, also the whole #2 is different because the column is resorted.
I see.
Okay. To my mind, #2 should be a mini tabular of some kind that can have operations done on it before it's passed in, because that's what you're really doing here. These things here, maybe I'm wrong.
you can't do it after the fact.
Okay. So do you sort? Okay, maybe this is a stupid question, but you're sorting before you transpose, or
You
right? I'm trying to understand. You said it changes #2, so I'm trying to understand how it changes
No, but
#2.
because #2
don't think about an explicit transposition. Is that
Okay.
you take the tabula, you create the groups. So imagine that you're just collecting groups of rows separately, yeah.
Okay.
And then you have like I don't know, like 4 or 5 subtabulars that are like independent tabulars.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then
And
you
within each of those
you do
subgroups,
sort
you
by
have to say
exactly.
how you sort.
Then you do sort by age. So each of these subtabulars is sorted by age,
Right. So
and those are the subtabulars.
in its
And then you can look at the
natural
index
state,
and you can pass the column.
it's sorted by the
order in which
by the original row index.
Exactly. So if you don't group, it gets the row index. If you do group, it gets the the shifted and rescaled row index within the subgroup. But is not
Oh, right, and
shuffling them.
Right, and it doesn't really. So why do you say it changes the #2? Because if if you're looking at the whole transposed age, right, it doesn't matter that you've sorted.
Well, yeah, because I mean, first, don't think about the single column. #2 is a full tabular, and imagine that you have only the people in first class. Then #2 is the list of columns, but you are shuffling the rows around before transposing it.
But you
are sorting by age, for example.
But if you've split it into groups,
right?
So I certainly understand that the grouping affects what #2 of whatever is, but how does then sorting each group affect what #2 of whatever
I mean,
is?
look at that take #2 survived #3. If it wasn't sorted, that take would be meaningless because the order within of the survived doesn't matter. Whereas
okay,
you're taking all the ones that are younger than the current one.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So #2 is okay. So #2 is now a sorted column, and then you're right. I was still thinking of like mean, where it doesn't matter. But yes, you're taking. Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you. I am unconfused now.
Right. So if we had a thing like windowed, which I am not buying yet, what should we call it? What is it? What is it really? what functions would it be used in? Is it
can be
more than
used in
just
map.
transformed columns?
It can be used in map. As a matter of fact, I have
What are you talking about? Map?
Yep.
Oh, and then we're talking about something completely different.
I mean, my original
No,
implementation.
not a chance. What do you mean? What do you mean? Are you talking about we're saying map of something? What are you talking about?
The first version of this that I wrote is called window map. And it does map plus extra things because it can group without grouping, right? So if you type window map, it will work.
But that sounds like
Window.
That sounds like a head, not like yes.
What does it do?
It won't work on something one-dimensional, obviously, because it tries to transpose things.
Okay, so it's a total hack. I mean, it's not anything like map. It's something completely different.
No, I don't think, Carlo, I don't think that it can work like map because this relies on the 2D structure of tabular, while map works on generic ND, not even ND, it works on rag.
Yeah, no,
well.
You're right about that, of course.
Okay, so it's nothing to do with map. It's something specific. So explain to me what functions it works in.
So far, it only works in transform columns and construct columns, really.
And what? I'm sorry. And what? And construct columns.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we imagine it working in anything else? Because if it works in those two things, there's probably a different design that's specific to those functions, right? Because what we're seeing here, what we're asking for is that in the construction of a column, which normally simply gets access to a single row, right? In construct columns here, we're saying,
well, we could provide those extra arguments automatically without any windowed thing.
You can,
and that would be the window without grouping.
No, we can't unless we have names for them. Unless we have reserved word names for them, right? And that's not going to work because #2 needs the ability to index. Well, I mean, it could work, I suppose. I mean, we could have a sort of, a hash whole tabular type thing, which is #2. So let's just understand.
Well, it's transposed tabular.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, #2 is really columns, columns. And then you get columns survived, columns. It's a list of columns.
Right, and this is row index. #3 is row index.
Yeah.
So an alternative in this one here, for example, would be.
And I will point out that columns and row index are unlikely to be column names. So this may be an acceptable bit of potential clashy bits.
If only we could start variables with underscores. Aren't we redesigning variable names?
Yeah,
we are.
Yeah. I don't
can we
think
start, can we start a variable with $? I mean, we can use it inside variables. I mean, something that sounds a bit more.
Something like $installation directory and $home directory.
Okay, the thing we don't have here. Okay, so we have this, but we don't yet have then the grouping stuff. So this on its own looks quite reasonable to me. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That looks comprehensible. Now, the issue is, doesn't transform columns, you're saying that on a per column basis, we might have different grouping and so on, but what does transform columns have in terms of other arguments?
Can I make a proposal?
Yeah.
Instead of, so if you're going with these names, then maybe the thing we could do is to have a headdress for the function that is called, I mean, we could call it something in SQL, there's something called partition by that would then just take the grouping and the sorting, and you put it as a headdress for the function.
Okay, so that would look like here, a
No.
headdress for this
No,
function.
no, for the whole thing. For the whole thing.
Nah.
Like partition by, like,
No.
Well, I mean, supplied, right? Supplied is a headdress for the whole function, right? So this would be
But
similar.
this whole function here.
Yes.
like
Yes.
type partition by, and then, you know, sex, class, whatever, age, and then
But
close
it's not taking
bracket on
that function and partitioning by that. It's a headdress like supplied as a headdress for the function. Just taking ambient information.
Then call it partitioned by.
It's not right. It's not the same thing. I mean, look, if we say reverse supplied, for example, f x y, okay, we get that.
Yeah.
So what's the analogous thing here? How is it affecting the application of the function?
Are you asking? This is so. The point is that this thing is non-local. So it's not affecting the function really. It's always going to be alive.
So it shouldn't be a headdress like this, unless it's supplied, which is the headdress that deals with ambient stuff.
Except I think it's the wrong, but what supply does tell is, you know, right, it binds the external information to your local variables, whereas this is not doing anything like that. It's saying, you know, how to pre-process the tabular before feeding it to this function, right?
We call it applied to partitions or something like that. I don't know, because that's what it does, really.
Well, hash. I mean, the first hash is not really affected by this at all. Yeah. So it's like hash columns and hash row index. But I mean, just making a consideration. I don't know if it will have an impact on this, but it's affecting those things.
Are you still with us, Stephen?
I'm still with you. I'm just dealing with something else. Sorry, I'm back here. Okay, what were you saying?
I was saying that,
I mean, do you have a different solution here? Because what this is doing, I mean, this seems understandable and extensible. It's not perfect in some ways.
I mean, you are making it impossible to name a column, row index, or columns.
Yeah, I'm making it difficult. What would you like me to do to make it even more difficult? I mean, it's a trade-off.
Yeah, but what happens if you import like something coming from a CSV from the unwashed web, and it has that as the name? Do we issue a message and say, man, this is going to be
Yeah, probably. But I mean, I think we need to figure out whether it's going to be a problem to rename that column, right? If we say rename columns, which we have, right? Data, you know, row index goes to blah, blah, blah. That's probably not a problem.
Okay, but then how do we do the grouping? Do you want a headdress?
I don't know. We need to figure that out.
Because I don't understand if you have a problem with the fact that it's a headdress, or if we can't find a good name for that.
Just a second. I don't think either of those is right. I think that what we're dealing with here is we probably need something called something like grouped columns. Or something.
But you're not grouping, well, That's way too confusing, right? Because to me,
Yeah, well,
that
that's
sounds like
probably
you're
not
grouping
right.
columns, whereas you're really grouping rows.
Also,
But
you're
what
not
if
getting
you
the
had
groups
something?
out.
Hold on. I just don't think this is the right idea. I don't think having this invisible weird grouping. Look, if you can get an explicit object that represents the grouped column, okay, then index into it. What is the explicit thing that groups the column? See, this is what you want.
I mean, do you mean like, I mean, in some of these data frame things, or like, you know, they'll have like a tabular and a separate thing that'll be like a grouped tabular, which is sort of like a list of tabulars in some way. But these are usually really weird objects.
And,
I mean,
and
so
also,
far we've avoided
can't-
having ever showing one of those things.
Yeah. And also, if you use one of those, there's no way you can glue it back without finishing the group, because it's like just partially grouped. And so there's no way to glue it back to a non-grouped tabular, because it will have different number of rows. It's weird.
Let's talk about what grouping really is. Okay, so here, it's this weird non-local thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think in part it's okay. So the problem is, right, tabular is all about having essentially like matrix-like data.
Yep.
And I think when you're grouping effectively, you have to briefly go into a world where you're depth 3 and then do an aggregation and then get back to depth 2.
Yeah, and because most people are unable to deal with depth 3 because their systems are only built for depth 2, a giant hack tower has been erected that makes it seem like it's depth 2, which probably isn't right.
Sort of. I mean, right now what we're doing is we're avoiding ever showing a depth 3 thing. What most systems do is they have their depth 2 tabular, and then they have a depth 3 object, a separate object that's called like a grouped tabular, which supports some of the things that tabular does and is generally kind of weird and so on. But I think there are kind of like algorithmic reasons why you can't just have it be like a list of tabulars, because for instance, you know, you want it so that even though it's grouped, they're all stored in, you know, the same packed form and stuff like that.
Okay, but what is it that one is picking up? One doesn't want hash columns of age. Instead, one is picking up the group, right? The current group, right? This here, length of this is one thing, right? But that's not what we get. We get length of the current group, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
It's essentially that. Not a very nice name, but it's essentially that. Right?
Yeah.
Now, the grouping, is it global in a transform columns? Or is it local to each individual column that's being created?
So far, it's local. It's local.
And the idea is that you could actually add 2 new columns, which is the average survival rate per class and the average survival rate per sex.
What will be, okay. Let's see. If we had a function like windowed, what should it actually be called? What is it doing? What is its definition?
Let me put it in a different way. What if instead of having this spooky action at a distance, instead of having, like, we modify transform columns itself to do this kind of stuff, That way, it's global. It's not as nice. You have to fold them if you want to do multiple of them, but then you don't have spooky action at a distance.
It's possible, yeah. I mean, in other words, that it does the grouping.
Yeah, it's
right?
it would have something like windowed transform columns, and then you have extra arguments in windowed transform columns.
Forget this windowed idea.
Yeah, okay.
The windowed idea is a bad idea. It's just not a good term.
It's just okay. It's just the way I learned.
It's not a good term. It means something. We could imagine something like that for map, which means do something like moving map.
So are these additional arguments or options are you suggesting?
No, additional arguments, and probably a different head too.
I'm not sure why we need a different head.
Maybe we don't.
Sorry, for which? For transform columns?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
I mean, if we just add these as, you know, additional argument, right? Transform columns is currently single argument, well, two arguments. So
I guess you wouldn't break the operator for to add the arguments.
Well, okay. So, but what would windowed be called if it was not called windowed? What is its real name, so to speak?
I feel like it's super reducer, right? It's
Yeah.
right. It's allowing you to slice and dice the data in more ways.
No, but that's not.
Yeah, but it never really reduces. That's the.
It's providing additional material.
Yeah,
well, it's not just
remember...
it's not just provide, right, but it's not just providing, or it's not just doing that, right? Because right, it's grouping and sorting. So it's
I know, but that's a different functionality. I mean, in its base functionality, if we ignore that.
right. Well, if we ignore all that, right, then that's just adding, you know, pound row index and pound columns as you know, as
I'm
blessed
confused
options.
by the following thing. Why wouldn't you need the whole column, not grouped, some of the time? See what I'm saying? You could need both in a single operation. You could need the thing grouped by something. You could need it grouped by something else as well. You know, it makes more sense to me. This isn't quite right. Sort of a headdress here, like that. Because really you want it local. You don't want to. See what I'm saying? You might want global columns of age or whatever. Right? Why would you not want that? And why wouldn't you want it grouped in two different ways? Right?
In this.
Why? What do you mean by grouped two different ways?
Well, grouped with respect to one parameter, grouped with respect to another parameter. I want to know all the orange orangutans divided by the number of baby orangutans or something. I want to know both some quantity that I want here is the color value of the orangutan, and the other is its age. And I want to group, when I generate this column, one parameter I want to divide by the, I don't know, the total number of orangutans who are 3 years old. And the other grouping I want to be by the shade of orange that the orangutan is. Do you see what I'm saying? I don't see any reason to think that you only want one grouping criterion within any given column construction. Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
So in other words, the grouping really is saying what I want is this. What I want to do is I want to pick up this within the current group, because I'm doing it row by row. You know, this is kind of a headdress that ultimately means within data on this row that I have currently reached in the construction of a column, within this row, I want to pick up not hash columns of age, which is the completely global column, but that column grouped by this parameter, but within the current, within the, see what I'm saying? So in other words, this row, you know, this row has a certain value of parameter P, okay? I want all elements of column C that have the same value of parameter P as this row.
Which is, okay, fine. What I'm wondering here is that I think that in 90% of examples, within group is going to be used exactly the same as what the thing I proposed with windowed. It's just inside the ampersand.
Yeah. I don't believe it. I think this is what you want. I think this is what you want. I want the elements. Okay, so I might want all elements of column C, okay? Or
which is what it does.
No, it isn't. It isn't. It isn't. It does not provide this capability. Does not provide that capability.
It does.
Only if you
yes.
have multiple windows. I don't even see how that works.
I don't understand. Like what
yeah,
I'm saying
I'm with Carlo on this one. I mean, that sounds like exactly what his window does.
How does it do it?
I mean, what I'm saying is that I'm not saying that it can currently do
multiple. You're saying it can't do this, right? It can't do this.
It does that. It just can't do more than one within the same.
Okay. Yes, I understand. But that's what I'm saying is why wouldn't you want more than one? I don't understand why you wouldn't want more than one.
Because it's easy, because it's exotic, and it's easy
not
to
exotic. It's only exotic if you don't have a good notation for it.
It's the same notation. It's just levels down. The exact same notation.
No, how do you do it?
What do you mean? It's the same notation. It's the same argument structure.
For what?
Windowed. It's the second argument. It's sex, right?
No, that's only giving you a single parameter, a single grouping parameter for everything.
Yeah.
This is not doing that. This is saying you can get the kind of, common group. Okay. You're referencing a random column in the tabular, okay? But you're referencing the elements of that column that are co-grouped with you with respect to some parameter. Do you see what I'm saying?
Which is what the thing is, you're doing it locally instead of globally. But most of the times, what you want to do is put within group just immediately one level below function, because you want everything co-grouped together. Otherwise, you don't understand. And if you do that, you'll see that within group is the same thing as windowed, just within the ampersand instead of without the ampersand.
Look, I think this is the beginning of a reasonable approach. Because I think what we want is you're getting a blob, okay? Along in this, you've usually been applying things row-wise, if you understand what I'm saying. But here you want a more global blob. And there are various global blobs that you might usefully want.
Yeah, but not at the same time usually.
You say. I don't agree with you.
And also,
Doesn't seem right
like
to me.
you can do it, like you can compute some parts. Also, okay, fine. Let's say it's super useful to have within group in different places doing different things. Don't you agree that when you do want the same thing globally, it's exactly the same syntax that you disliked half an hour ago?
Possibly, but it's more comprehensible here. I don't really like this syntax either, but I think what's important is that, and again, maybe we combine these constructs and we have a function that is basically, we have something in here that is kind of like a slot, right? Like hash age is otherwise known as slot of age, right?
Yep.
Okay. But this isn't a slot. This is something else. This is some kind of tabular slot or something. I don't really like that term, but it's a column slot or something like that. And we have a tabular slot, which then we get rid of. We don't have to deal with this, reserved words thing. It's like tabular slot. So then this becomes, again, I don't really like the syntax, but you could imagine, tabular slot of age grouped by this.
What is that?
That means a tabular slot, or maybe I should call it a column slot. Just like hash age refers to the local, the row as if association. See what I'm saying? So hash age refers to the thing on that current row. Okay, column slot would refer to would be a way of selecting from the whole tabular. I don't know. I mean,
And then you'd have another, which is index slot.
Maybe, I'm not sure.
But index slot cannot take, the first argument doesn't make sense.
No, I understand. I mean, I don't particularly like that, but I think I claim there are going to be more of these things. So we might want a tabular slot concept that has multiple things. Okay, so what the documentation for this would say, again, I don't really like the term slot. I mean, that's not quite right. But it would just say, this puts into that place the whole column. But it could be the whole column grouped along with this row. So it's a context dependent thing, because this is different. Given that it's got grouping, it's different because it needs to have things that are co-grouped with that row. Am I making sense? I think I'm supposed to go to a different meeting, but we're making progress here. This is getting a bit more explicit, and not as much. #2 means, telling joke by the number 85 is the following joke about the chicken. I'm being very unreasonable, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Having random #2s and #3s lying around just doesn't feel nice. All right, we're making progress. Let's pick it up. Can you guys think a little bit about the idea of a symbolic construct that lives within transform columns and that pulls out these objects? See what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I think we're going to get somewhere with that. Because it really, it satisfies the criterion that it remains local to what's going on.
Yeah, the thing I'm not a huge fan of here is that, if you look at many of the examples we looked at for implementing things like for transform missing that are in the
Okay.
below the fold,
I understand. I got to go.
you have to repeat sex, age, blah, blah, blah 15 times if you type it like this.
Maybe.
Whereas,
Let's see. Let's start with this, and maybe there's a way to move it outwards.
okay.
All right. See you guys.